Let's gamify your online learning class. Hi, I am Joyce Zerda, music teacher, art teacher, coding teacher, and most significantly, tech integrator of MZ Christian School Incorporated in Cebu City. To give you a little background, I help teachers research, discover, learn, and deploy applications or websites that they can use to augment learning and excite their students' classroom experience. Now that I think you know a little bit about me, let's get into the main topic. How to gamify your remote class. Introducing gamified apps in the classroom has been practiced by a lot of schools. And if you're a teacher who's already been using this strategy, you might be familiar with some of the applications that we'll be talking about today. However, for this session, I want to focus on bringing the same kind of gamification into your remote class. Yes, whether you're on Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, or whatever video conferencing platform your school decides to use. Before we dive into the apps, let's get to the whys. Why gamify? Gamifying allows communication, enhances critical thinking, encourages teamwork, and you can also use it for assessment. Let's talk about communication. We already know that students who've completed the previous school year through Zoom classes have experienced exhaustion. So much so that the term Zoom fatigue has been coined and talked about in many articles and research papers in relation to remote learning. So, most schools are not recommending daily Zoom or video conferencing classes. For the first few months, we might start off having excited learners who can't wait to see their friends or meet new classmates through their screens. But think about that. In the span of 10 months, we might all come to realize that having something students look forward to can be vital, like a game. Games are not just all for fun, while we do have to admit that really they are fun. It demands a mental workout under the guise of competition and laughter. Some types of games are played individually, but there are also games where students work as a team. This builds their relationship with one another. And lastly, assessment. We can use games in place of a quiz, review lessons, or even administer an exam. Most educational gamified apps and programs allow you to collect raw data that can be used to grade and evaluate your students' works. And personally, I find this the most authentic. You know a student has genuinely learned when they are able to apply what is ironed in. We're going to be tackling 3 gamified applications: Kahoot, Quizlet, and Gimkit. So let's start with Kahoot. You want to prepare a few things before the class. First, prepare your deck. Then, you want to prepare to screen share or split screen during your video conference. And this is so on one side, you can see your class, and on the other, you get to see the questions you're asking. Lastly, you want to ask your students to prepare a second device. Now, this is optional, but for Kahoot, they need a second device to act as a game console while the questions are shown on the screen. Here is the teacher's view. After selecting your deck, click on Teach. This takes you to the game options. You can choose Classic or Team mode, but for this session, we're going to choose Classic. After selecting Classic, you can now invite your students to join the game. After everyone is settled in, you can go ahead and start the game. Now, as you can see on the screen, it's important for your student to have a separate device with playing Kahoots. That is because the question and the options will only be seen through the teacher's screen share. It's also important to note that the teacher is in full control of the speed of the game, and you get to choose when you want to go to the next question. Here's a tip. You might want to remind your students ahead of time that they might need an extra device.
Now let's dive into Quizlet. And similar to Kahoots, the first thing you want to prepare is your deck. Then you want to make sure you are prepared to screen share or to split screen. So I personally like using a separate device, and if that's available to you, that works better for you to see your whole class answering and see the scoreboard. Once you've chosen a deck, there are a whole bunch of options on the left-hand side. Click on Live. This now takes you to a second option, where you can choose to play in teams or to play individually. Let's select Individual. The third and last step will now ask you how you would like to play. You can either have the terms as options or the definition as options. Choose what best fits your learning goals. At this point, you may now invite your students to come and join the game. Even if they sign in with their name, as soon as the game starts, they will be assigned team names. This is good to avoid unhealthy competition. Now, teachers are not able to see the questions being asked, but they will be able to display the scoreboard for everyone to see. Students will also see an overview of who's leading the race on the top side of their screen. It is ideal in remote learning for students to play individually. But if you're up for a challenge, why not try team mode? Let's see how that works. Students are automatically assigned to teams as equal as possible. You are not able to create your own teams. However, you are able to shuffle the teams as many times as you like. In team mode, you need a minimum of 4 players. Now here's the challenge of playing this in remote learning. The correct answer is only given to one member of the team, and the other members are unable to see the options of their teammates. You can choose to turn on everyone's microphones, but I don't really recommend that. Another thing you can do is you can assign each team to separate Zoom breakout rooms. That will give them the opportunity to discuss as a team. Now, if you're new to Quizlet Live, here's a very important reminder you want to tell your students before they play the game. Every time they make a mistake, their score goes back to 0. Yes, I know, students don't really like that. However, it's a fun way to challenge them to review more. As students race to win, the game ends when a team or individual has gotten all the answers correct. At the end of a game, students are able to review mistakes they've made. Quizlet is a great tool for mastery, and students love it. Now let's get to the last app, Gimkit. Similarly, before your class, you need to prepare your deck, also to split screen or screen share during video conferencing. The new one is choosing your game power-ups. You want to set your power-ups before your game starts. This gives a lot of options for students to earn more during the game. Unlike Kahoots and Quizlet, in Gimkit, students win when they earn the most money. Students will need great strategy to use the power-ups to win the game. This is how you get started. Click on the play button of the deck you choose to play. You can also import your decks from Quizlet. After the students sign in with the code and their name, before the game starts, they find out how much money they begin with. You can choose to give students more money before the game starts for them to purchase power-ups ahead of time. Let's take a closer look on what the power-ups do. Students shop around to spend the money they earned in the game to help them multiply their earnings every time they score a point. Gimkit can be played in many different ways. Feel free to switch it up before every game to keep it fresh for your students. Kahoots, Quizlet, and Gimkit can all be accessed through a web browser, but you can also download it through the App Store or Play Store. These study decks can be used beyond the classroom. You may share your study decks with your students, and they may study the decks at home. I can't wait for you all to try it out. And before school starts, why not gather some teacher friends and practice among yourselves? I hope you enjoyed this session and you learned something fun and exciting. Have a great school year, everybody. God bless you, and bye!